Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Maverick Mindset Radio Show. I'm Adam Williams.
And I'm Ashley Muckenhop.
And this is the radio show for the dreamers and doers. It's for those who are willing to step into the arena.
Some call us the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers.
We don't accept the status quo. We leave the world better than we find it.
We approach each day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. We maintain a rational optimism about the future.
This is the Maverick Mindset Radio Show, brought to you by me, Adam Williams. Have we ever explained why we have that line in there?
No. Most people are probably like, oh.
Yeah, typical Adam
Yeah.
egocentrism. No, it's like I think we have an obligation through the FCC probably to disclose like who funds this thing.
Yes.
So this is a paid program that I pay for. So I legally have to disclose that. If anybody else wants to step up,
right? Sponsors.
And get my name off of it, please. I would accept sponsorships from the following businesses.
Yes.
I wasn't really ready for this.
Uh-oh.
Celsius Energy. We were just talking about that.
We put it on here.
Or First
except
Form.
For today.
I could be a First Form ambassador. I think I have to be in better shape to do that, but I think I could make that happen. What else?
What else do we drink all the time?
Does Ted Lasso sponsor media?
That'd be great.
I could get into that.
Or the bear.
The Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about we had a new employee start on Monday, so I've been remembering.
Did you introduce her to some of the bear and Ted Lasso
you know
stuff?
what we need to do is, and we did a couple of shows on this. I need to consolidate a list because we mail books out, right?
Yeah.
And we give some people some reading material so they can learn about our business and learn about us. And we do need to make a list of like, if you want to be cool, read and watch and listen to this. And if you don't want to be cool, then ignore it.
You know, there's a book. I would be shocked if you didn't see it, but it's under the Ted Lasso stuff, but it's called Lead Like Lasso.
Seriously?
Yes.
How do you not tell me about this?
Huh?
Because I could have written it? Okay.
No. No, but I was like, what? This is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and we know that. Like,
Yes.
we know the leadership and management lessons that come from that show.
Yeah.
I believe if you are a leader in any capacity and you haven't watched that show, you're failing as a leader.
Yeah.
I'll put that out there.
Yeah. Just don't buy it. It's like a birthday, Christmas present.
Or it could just be a random thoughtful gift for your boss.
True. But I saw it. I'm like, oh, perfect.
It is perfect. That
Yeah.
does sound good. All right.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
Ooh, okay. So today we are talking about management. Nice. We've already talked about leadership.
Yep.
So now we're talking about management, the development of people, not the direction of things.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Did you do that?
No.
Look at me.
No, and
I must have done it.
Look at you.
This last week I did one too.
There's a lot of stuff that's been happening recently in the business that you're just handling, and I'm like, thank God she's handling
Yeah.
that. Like,
I'm growing.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think I'm right too.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Happens every so often.
When was that meeting last night? 6 o'clock?
Yeah.
We had a Zoom meeting last night with our sales vendor and our
Yeah.
marketing vendor. And I just sat there and watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
like you had it under control. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I almost didn't need to be there. And I sat and watched the whole thing. And then we got towards the end and I looked at my list to make sure that we covered everything, and we did. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
See you later. And then you sent me a message and you're like, that was a great meeting.
It was.
I'm like, yeah, I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, and you know what the best part of that was? It's all done this morning. Everything that we talked about.
Man, that's the value of working with experts, huh? 6 o'clock at night, you get on the call with these guys.
I got a message this morning that
and it's
all.
already done. This is
Like-
and actually this, as we're talking about management today, one of the lessons is going to be you need a great team,
Yeah.
and it's really hard to do it without a great team. So Dwight Eisenhower had this lesson, on management and leadership, on lay a piece of string on the table.
Mm-hmm.
If you push that string, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you pull it, it will follow you. And it's a heck of a lot easier to pull a string that's ready to be pulled. And yeah, so there's a huge lesson in that of making sure that you're surrounding yourself with experts and people that want to learn and want to grow and people that just want to win and people that want to dominate and people that want to do well.
Yep.
And spoiler alert, there's a shortage of those people out there right now.
Yes, there is.
We are we are 9 minutes in. I'm already fired up. 4 minutes, I guess, since we went live. But like, there is a shortage of people in America that want to dominate and win and be excellent.
Yeah.
And
Somewhere along the line, it went away.
well, we've allowed ourselves to become soft as a society. We got complacent because we are the best in the world objectively.
Yes.
America is. and that allows us to get complacent. Yeah. That's why it's so hard to repeat as champion. America has been world champion for 2 centuries, and we're losing our edge.
Yeah.
Vote for me.
Oh no, guys! This may be the start of something.
I believe I could have more of an impact with this radio show and this podcast than I could having any elected position.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stick with this, and that's why I bring you this show every week.
Yep.
Personally and individually, with very little help. No.
You're welcome, people.
You're welcome. You're welcome, America. Let's make this next century great.
It'll be the next T-shirt that.
Man, we got into it. We got into it early today.
Yeah,
it's going to be pretty exciting. But yeah, so we're going to talk about building the right team, because none of this matters if you don't have the right team.
Right.
Now, the flip side of that coin is you can't have a team that's entirely comprised of unicorns and purple unicorns who are excellent at everything. You can't have a team of A+ players.
Right.
If you do, you're running a nonprofit, probably involuntarily. Right? Most nonprofits can't afford to pay all A players, but genuinely, if you're running a for-profit business and you think you have to have all A+ players, you're not going to have enough money for profit or paying yourself or keeping the lights on, for that matter. So I think, wasn't Billy Beane in town a couple weeks ago, or maybe last week, for Manufacturing Day? So my son got to go to Manufacturing Day that the Manufacturers and Business Association puts on. He left. It was a school thing, but that evening Billy Beane spoke. Do you know who Billy Beane is?
I don't.
So he's the guy from Moneyball. Brad Pitt played him in Moneyball.
Yes,
so he assembled, like a world-class, I think they got to the World Series and maybe didn't win it. Was it the Oakland A's? Is that, somebody fact-check me on this. But the idea was they assembled a team not of all-stars.
Okay.
Because you see statistics, actually, that in professional sports and baseball in particular, that the higher paid a player is, the less they perform. Like there's a point where they hit their peak, and then they go out and sign the massive contract, and then they slip a little bit, which is the same thing this country's doing right now. So, but Billy Beane came and spoke and taught this lesson on, like, we built this team with one of the lowest salary caps in the league, and it wasn't because we had all of these. I think it was Jason Giambi maybe that they had, and then they had to get rid of him because they couldn't afford him. So they brought in these lesser known people that didn't have the star qualities, but as a team,
they were
with I think it was on base percentage was a big thing. Like, if we can get guys that hit singles and doubles, doesn't need to be grand slam home runs all the time, we can be competitive. And it turned out to be true. And the same is true for your business. Your business has a salary cap. There's only so much that you can spend on people until you start losing money. So you got to be mindful. Do you need all stars, purple unicorns, rock stars, whatever you want to call them? Yes. No business can survive or thrive without them. But you've also got to be mindful of not everybody can be an A player. Like, sometimes you're going to have B and C players because that's all you can afford. That's the reality of having a business.
And somehow, some way, they still bring value, and because they're somewhat of that support to your A players. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's a team.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Like
the team plays together and wins together and loses together.
Yeah.
And they're not individuals. In fact, having that individual, I just picture that rock star who's sort of the prima donna, and everybody kowtows to this person. Man, that's a 7th grade vocabulary word. But everybody kowtows to this person, and they treat them special and tread very lightly around this person, and that's really bad for a team dynamic as well. You need the people that all play together. Where you need the A+ player, but part of being an A+ player is recognizing that no job is beneath you.
There you go.
Oh man,
there you go.
That was.
Yeah.
We haven't even introduced the show today. We haven't even gotten into the quote. We could end the show right now, and people have already gotten enough value out of this.
Yep.
Oh man, I didn't think it was going to be this great. I wasn't in the zone enough.
What?
For this show.
I was listening to Leona Lewis on the way here. I was.
What song? Jackie loves Leona Lewis.
It's a new one, and it has her and Ariana Grande. Well, no, it's a mix of Leona Lewis and the Ariana Grande song "Birds of a Feather," and I sent it. I think I've actually sent it to Jackie, because then we got on the topic of how she likes.
Oh, sure. You send Jackie motivational songs, and then you find a book that's right up my alley, and you're like, "Did you know about this?" No. Publicly embarrass me. I got to say on the air in front of our tens of listeners that I haven't even heard of that book. All right.
Good title.
So let's backtrack a little bit.
Yep.
Let's talk about what we're doing
we
here.
missed all of that.
Yeah. Normally I'm the one hijacking the show, but you played right along with it. I stopped at the coffee shop across the street this morning to get coffee and breakfast, because I had to adjust my schedule this morning. And It's the friendly cashier.
Yes.
Remember, I think we went there after our first show, and we're like, this dude's good.
Yes.
So Bakery on 5th, whoever the cashier is, nice guy.
Yes.
He deserves a raise. So he's like, got anything cool going on today? And he doesn't know me. This is the same thing he's asking everybody. I'm like, well, I got to go across the street and do my radio show, and then, big plans for just crushing my list today. And he's like, oh, you like right across the street, that studio with the microphones and looking out the window? I said, yep, we do a show there. And he's like, so what's the show? I said, it's Maverick Mindset Radio. And he goes, oh, what do you talk about? Sports? I'm like, what? No. And I get it. It's a talk radio station, so there would be some sports coverage. And I'm like, no. And so I'm running through the show intro in my head, and I'm like, we talk about entrepreneurship. We talk about mindset. I said, we're talking about the American dream. That's what we get on every week and talk about, like really achieving the American dream. So that's why I was already attacking that America this morning, because we're slipping, and I'm here trying to fix it.
Get us back on track.
Yep. So we're streaming live on Facebook. We are live from downtown Erie on Talk Erie 103.3 or 105.9, or for you AM radio listeners, 1530. Communicating in smoke signals. We're live on Facebook. We're streaming live on Facebook. We got the last week and all prior episodes available on YouTube, available on Spotify, and of course more information at maverickmindsetradio.com, which needs some updates, and we'll get there. And then of course we have the Maverick merch available, notebooks, coffee mugs, stickers. Use the code Maverick10 for 10% off. All right. We got through the administrative stuff, the housekeeping. Let's jump into the quote of the day.
Okay, quote of the day. I found two. The first one's by Peter Drucker.
Ooh,
I hope I said that right.
Yeah.
And it is, management is doing the right things, and leadership. Did I do this right? Hold on, people. Oh, Jesus. Okay. Let's restart this.
All right. Quote of the day.
Yeah, quote of the day.
Peter Drucker, management guru.
Let's see, I can't read my writing. All right, put that away. Management is doing things right. Okay?
Yep.
Management is doing things right.
Yes.
Leadership is doing the right things.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I get it.
So after that, I think it goes hand in hand with it. Management works in the system.
Yeah.
Leadership works on the system.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, that nails it. Those are two concepts that we use in our business, and I think that a lot of successful businesses use. The leadership, which we did the show on that. I don't remember which episode it was. We may have done a couple episodes on it, and it continues to be an ongoing theme. But the idea with leadership is you're setting the vision, you're casting the vision, you're recasting the vision, and it is your obligation as a leader, typically as the founder of a business, to create a vision big enough that everyone else's vision fits underneath it or fits within it, right? And that's difficult, because when you get on the management side and you really get into the weeds and you remove yourself from that 30,000-foot view, it's hard to keep that big vision going, because you're focusing on what needs to be done, what needs to be done, what needs to be done. So Jackie and I are both very intentional. We actually went to lunch yesterday. We've adjusted our schedules so that she and I get out of the office together during work hours, which is really important, so it doesn't interfere with weekends and after hours and things like that. So we got that little bit of a clarity break, and we can focus on not what needs to be done, but on how the business must operate.
Right.
Which is more of a leadership.
Right. So it's like leadership is the vision, the whole thing, and management is then the tasks part of it, and making sure that it's getting that vision and the things that go along to make it happen are being done right.
And we just did this yesterday in our business. We had our quarterly state of the company, which is mostly leadership and a little bit of management. So we talked about our vision. I should have pulled the slide deck up for this, because I think this would be helpful. Maybe we'll do another leadership show and we can get into that. But our vision is to create a community of entrepreneurs who master their numbers and maximize their potential and minimize their tax burden.
Yes.
And there is a lot that can fit under that umbrella. Of course, we do tax strategy under that umbrella, but it's also helping people understand their numbers and understand their metrics and get out of their business. What did Jackie call it
yesterday? It was great. She's a tax therapist.
Tax therapist. That was pretty good.
It should get your tax therapy.
That's officially out there in the world. Trademark.
Yes.
Us. Come at us. So that's the leadership side of things, where we have the vision, we have our mission, which is to help our clients save $100 million on their taxes.
Yeah.
And we have our core values, which we've talked about. Core values, we talk about them in the business repeatedly. We celebrate them in the business. We hire around them, which we'll talk about today. But then when we take that vision and those goals and our core values and our service standards, well, we got to get there somehow, and that's where management comes in. Mm-hmm. Management and leadership are working together to set the goals for the year, and then we create those rocks or those projects for the quarter for the next 90 days. And this is the first quarter, due to some fortunate restructuring in the business, this is the first quarter where everyone in the business has at least one rock that they're responsible for. So every person in our business has a project that they are accountable to complete between now and the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this yesterday. It is a team effort. Like we put some employees in, we make them accountable for things. We put them in charge of things that we don't expect them to do all of the work, because they're going to need help from the team on getting these things done. And there's going to require some collaboration and working together on things. But if we get to December 31st and the thing is not done, we're asking you as the person who's accountable, why isn't it done? What happened? And of course, we're keeping an eye on it throughout that process. And that's where the management comes in.
Rock.
Yes. So that's one of the things that you manage, and we'll get into a couple other things. But one of the things that you manage is when you give someone a project, meaning more than a task, right? It's going to take more than a week or two, but it's something, it's ongoing. There's a build out, there's a rollout. Management has the obligation of helping establish those priorities, delegating the authority for those priorities, and then following up to make sure that they actually get done.
Yeah.
So throughout the quarter, we may be having difficult conversations of, where do you stand with this? Are you ahead of pace? Great. Are you on pace? Wonderful. Are you behind pace? Okay, what do we need to do to fix that? And actually, this is one that's been driving me crazy a lot recently in a lot of different instances. I've been thinking hard on this one.
Okay.
About holding people accountable.
Yeah.
And I figured it out. I figured out the problem. And I don't know if this was like a conglomeration of a bunch of things I was learning, or if it was an epiphany, or if I just literally read this statement. But here's what I figured out. All of us have a need to be liked.
Yes.
It is like deeply ingrained in us.
Yeah, nobody wants to be disliked.
Do you know why?
No.
Because if you're disliked, you die. It is a survival mechanism. If you were in a tribe and the tribe didn't like you, you didn't eat.
You're outcast. Yeah.
Yep. You're kicked out of the tribe. You don't get to eat. You don't get assistance.
Ingrained from.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It is like fundamental to our essence of, we have a need to be liked.
Yeah.
So if you've got someone that works for you and you're more of a buddy than a boss, and you're not having conversations about, you agreed to do X and you have not completed X.
Yeah.
It can be a really positive constructive conversation, but some people don't even want to start that conversation. They're too afraid of, oh, they're not going to like me. Here's where I'm flipping it around. I believe, as a manager, that holding people accountable and showing them their results is one of the most selfless things that you can do. Mm-hmm. Because I've just taken my need to be liked and I've thrown it out the window so that I can make you better.
Yeah.
That is as selfless as it gets. So for everybody out there who's afraid of having that difficult conversation, who's afraid of holding people accountable, who's afraid of saying, you didn't do the thing you said you would do when you said you would do it, be selfless.
Yeah.
And throw out your need to be liked and have those conversations. And one of two things is going to happen. Either the person will be receptive to that feedback and they'll learn and grow and get better, and the business will get better and we'll all get better, or that person will dislike you and they won't step up and do what they need to do, and then you can part ways with them.
And let's, for going back to Tribe Days, let's come back a little bit earlier, Tribe Days, and think, as children, right? We don't like when we get in trouble or we're told what to do or we have to be held accountable for something. Yet, therapists will tell you, people will tell you, children yearn to be held accountable and yearn for a type of discipline. Mm-hmm. Like they need it. They want it. They're looking for it. That doesn't go away as we grow and become adults. That doesn't just go out the window and it's just pertinent to children. We need that too. I need that. I need that if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to, or I've kind of become complacent with something. I need that accountability, or like you said, you stop growing in that moment. And you don't always recognize that you need that yourself. You need somebody else to be able to tell you that. So.
Yes. So here's where you
be a baby and get your accountability.
Here's where you can be a good parent or boss, because it's the same exact thing.
It really is. A management.
But here's the important thing, right? This is not dictating. This is not micromanaging. Right. That is not a skill that we want to develop.
Right.
Here's the skill that you develop, and this is true for parents or for bosses in the workplace. Your people or your kids, your children, with all definitions, will perform better and be more motivated, not if you tell them what to do and how to do it, but if you explain to them what needs to be done and why it's important.
Yeah.
That's really key, is why is this important? Because what's going to happen is when they jump in and start that project, that task, that assignment, things are going to throw them off of the clear linear path that you've provided for them, and they're going to need to know how to adapt back to it. And if they don't understand the why, if they just think it's the what and how to do it, they're going to get it wrong.
Yeah.
They're going to say, well, you told me to use this piece of software, so yes, the thing I handed you was hot garbage because that piece of software was incapable of doing the thing that you really wanted.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what I wanted was the thing.
Yeah.
I wanted the automated emails to go out. And if I recommended this piece of software and it can't send the automated emails, well, that's when you realize what I wanted done was automated emails, not this particular piece of software. So there was a book called, I think it was called Drive. Yeah, Drive, The Surprising Truth About What Motivates Us. This is from a guy named Daniel H. Pink, who's a pretty famous author. And 3 major factors for motivation, because motivation plays a big part in this. We need to be motivated in order to do the things, in order to learn, in order to grow, in order to execute and accomplish things. And it's autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yeah.
If you've got those 3 things, nothing can stop you, I believe.
Yeah.
Like, those are the things that can allow somebody to run through a brick wall. Mastery, I'm going to take them out of order. Mastery is so key. Like, why do you think Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant really like playing basketball? Because they're good at it.
Yeah.
Like, it's way more fun when you're good. I struggle with people who golf who just suck at it.
Yeah.
If I golfed, and I don't, but if I golfed, I would be going out and taking 18 months worth of intensive lessons before I set foot on that golf course, because it's going to be way more enjoyable if I'm at least marginally competent, let alone a master of the thing. And mastery is only going to come with reps. It's only going to come with that experience. It's the Malcolm Gladwell tipping point of 10,000 hours. I think a lot of people, and again, I'm taking generational shots here, but there's at least 2 generations in America now where they don't have the patience to achieve mastery. They expect immediate results. And it's becoming worse. Amazon makes it worse. Everything I want is less than 48 hours away from me. I think that parents have enabled this. I think that schools have enabled this. And I think there's some bad employers out there who have enabled it. They're starting kids fresh out of college at $150,000 a year. Well, guess what? Most of those kids are completely clueless, and you know it. So stop being stupid about this. Allow them to learn and grow and become masters and put in the reps to the point where they are the best at what they do.
Allow them to hear the word no. Allow them to fail, because hearing that allows them that opportunity to try harder and figure out what they need to do to grow and be better. So
that's how you achieve mastery, by screwing it up a bunch of times.
Nowadays, they're told yes to everything, or yeah, you can have it. And so telling them no, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Like,
but the benefit of mastery is, and we've been talking about this recently, Pennywise just had a record revenue month.
Yes.
And it's better than any month the law firm has achieved in the last 24 months.
Yeah.
So this is a business that we launched a little over a year ago, that 6 months ago we got really intentional with growing. And because we've done this for 15 years, because we've studied marketing, because we've studied sales, because we have our vision and mission and core values and service standards, because we've put all of this work in, it looks really easy right now.
Yeah.
And you know that it isn't.
I know that it isn't.
Because you've been along for it. But it's a heck of a lot easier than it has been.
Oh, yeah.
And the results are better than they ever have been. And that's exactly why is I've dedicated 15 years of my life to getting really, 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 really good at this.
Didn't happen overnight.
And I'm still going to make mistakes, and I'm still going to screw things up, and I'm still going to have to fix stuff. But man, it always takes more time and more money and more effort than you want it to. But every time we do it, it takes a little bit less money and a little bit less effort, and the results are a little bit better.
Yeah.
So that's the mastery piece. We talk about purpose. That's where it comes back to vision of like, what are we actually trying to achieve in this business? For us, we're trying to defund the IRS, and we're trying to take $100 million away from the IRS and put it back into the pockets of business owners. And the $100 million is important to us because the budget of the city of Erie, Pennsylvania is about $105 million. Yeah. So literally, we're taking what our entire city spends in a year and we're giving it back to small businesses and entrepreneurs. That's something that the right people will buy into.
Yeah.
Other people won't understand it.
And isn't it important then for your team, your management, everybody they have to invest in that same vision. They have to believe in it, and they have to understand why that vision is important.
Why it's important.
Because if
that's
not,
the purpose. Yep.
You can't give 110% to something that you don't really care about.
No, you can barely give 20% if you don't really care about it. But that's most employees. Actually, so we're going to come back to autonomy because that's the third one. But there's a study that's often cited in academic papers and books, and so Gallup does this survey of like workforce stuff, and I have the statistics here, and I can make them up if I need to. But Gallup does a survey of American workers. 31.5% of full-time American workers are engaged at their jobs. So a third of workers are engaged. Okay. 51% are not engaged, meaning they show up, they clock in at 9, they clock out at 5, and they look busy, and they're doing enough to not get fired.
Yep.
17.5% are actively disengaged, meaning they are intentionally and proactively doing things to make their company worse.
Appreciate you joining us here.
Thanks.
Yeah. These are the people that are stealing from their employers. They're missing days of work. They're driving customers away. They're driving the A players away.
Yeah.
So
now I think management of your team has a lot to do with that. And I'm going to tell you why.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were in Atlanta. It still doesn't sit right with me today. We were in Atlanta.
Oh, boy.
And we were in that.
What did I do?
Group.
I'm so
you
nervous
didn't.
now.
We were in the group. It wasn't you because you don't operate that way. We were in a group with a bunch of other entrepreneurs and business owners, and we were talking about management. And one of the questions came up that they can't find a good manager. Was their biggest problem, right? Shouldn't be, but it is. So one guy is all proud that his manager is an a-hole, and that's what she was. And I think I can say that because I didn't quite swear to her. But that's what she was, because he was talking about how, the employees, they thought that she's really hard on them, and she didn't like them, but they would come to her and say, I don't think you like me. But what her power was, not what her leadership was as a manager. She was using that power to be here with them and not here.
You just raise your hand up high.
To be higher than them and not equal with them. And I think as management, you got to find a way to be equal with your team, right? Because it's your job to make sure that they are doing the things right, but also that they're motivated to do the things right. So to sit there, gave the story of like, somebody came into the office and they were like, I don't think you like me. I don't care. I have a job to do. Get out of my office. Well, who are you to say that and treat people that way? Because that person is your responsibility to make sure that they're doing 110% for your leader. So you better figure out where that disconnect is and help them to do better. That's what you're there for. That made me so mad. It still sits wrong with me because why would you be proud of that? I don't think that leads your business to success.
This is like Machiavelli, right? Like they lead by fear.
Yeah.
And
I don't like that.
I think it's Michael Scott from The Office. Like, do I want my people to fear me or love me? Both. I want them to be afraid of how much they love me. But that's motivating by fear, which really isn't a sustainable model, right?
No.
Like there's only so much of do this or you're fired that people can stand. But the problem is that's the way that a lot of employees think. They think if I screw up, I'm going to get fired.
Yeah.
You sent me a message yesterday. I screwed up and I need to meet with you.
Yeah.
Fine. And how did I respond to that?
Do you want the solution?
I listened to what you had to say, and I said, mm-hmm. You want to solve it?
Yeah.
And then we did.
Yeah.
And I haven't fired you yet.
No. But I knew I could do that. I knew that it was better for me to be honest and say, because I didn't say screwed up. I said something else.
Yeah.
Like
You swore.
Yeah. I knew that I could do that instead of sitting there and being upset about it or going to talk to other people about it or just letting it go and not saying anything at all. The environment was created that I knew at that point I made a mistake. I have to go to you to help me solve what that is. That has to happen.
Yeah. So the environments where they're led by fear, those problems get swept under the rug.
And become bigger problems.
That's where the businesses implode.
Yes. So when you think everything's running smooth because you have a a-hole in charge, I just want you to understand
they're keeping things
They're
from you.
keeping things from you, and something's going to come back around sooner or later. So don't hire a-holes.
Well, we try not to. Were you on the call with our sales team when I told them about the no a-hole rule?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't say the word.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she's a couple years out of college. She just added me on LinkedIn. So she's 2 or 3 years out, 4 years out of college. And I was like, listen, I didn't make this up. Like, this was a Stanford professor who wrote the book, and you can go and look it up. Like, it's a thing, and it's true for our team and for our clients. We won't accept them. All right. So Maverick Mindset Radio, we are blowing your minds every Wednesday at 9, going live at 9:05 on Talk Erie. Today we're talking about management. We're all over the place today, but we're covering some really good stuff. And we are in the depths of keeping people motivated and making them want to do great work. So we talked about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. We dove into mastery, we dove into purpose. Let's talk about autonomy. I'm going to give you a parable.
Okay.
You ready?
You're using a lot of big words today.
Sorry.
I haven't had a Celsius.
Am I intimidating? Am I intimidating
I'm like, wait a second. What is this word?
Am I intimidating you with my vocabularistics? Man. You threw me off with that.
Sorry.
What was the word I just used?
Parable. And autonomy.
I'm gonna tell a story. It's story time, Ashley.
Now I get it.
All right. So guy's walking down next to a cliff, and he slips and falls off the cliff.
Okay.
And on the way down, in the scramble, the heat of the moment, he grabs a vine, and he's holding onto the vine, and he catches his breath, and he looks up the cliff, and he goes, "Is anybody up there?" And this voice echoes back down, "Do you believe?" And the guy's like, "I'm hanging off this cliff. I'm on this." "Yes, I believe." And the voice says, "Let go of the vine." And the guy says, "Is anybody else up there?" And it's a funny story, but this is the story when it comes to delegating and empowering your people and giving them autonomy. You, as a leader, as a manager, you have to let go of the vine. And it's a really difficult thing for us to do, because especially if we're the business owner or we're the founder, it's our creation. We've gotten to where we are through our own Herculean, superhuman efforts. And this is not to sound arrogant. This is the reality. Most people that you hire, especially in the early stages, won't do the job as well as you will, because they don't care as much.
Yeah.
And you can't always afford to go out and hire those experts and hire those people that are better than you. Sometimes you're hiring that person who you know can replace you at an 85% level. And that's a really difficult thing to let go of. You have to you have to trust your employees to go out and make those mistakes,
get it to the finish line,
and then fix them and learn from them and deal with the consequences. So the autonomy piece is really, really, really challenging. And one of two things happen. Either the manager never lets go, and they continue micromanaging, they continue jumping in and rescuing. They're in the room full of monkeys, and they're putting all of the monkeys on their backs as opposed to putting them on other people's backs.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that happens. Or the other thing that happens is they abdicate, and they just back the dump truck up and unload on somebody else and say, "Call me when you're finished," and then they completely ignore that it ever happened. And these are both really difficult things to do. So how do we fix it? How do we get to the point where, as a manager, we can empower our team to have autonomy in the things that they can do? Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Or do you want to answer that question for me?
No, I want to hear what you have to say.
So you got to build a team, right?
Yep.
You got to hire people. You got to bring in people that can do the job.
Yes.
We had an episode on hiring, and we're going to recap some of those points right now because
important.
people get it wrong. Yep. You should be first hiring for culture fit. You should first hire for personality and the type of person and the type of work ethic and the type of beliefs and values that they have.
Yeah.
And you should be hiring for skill set second. So we talk about getting the right people in the business.
Yes.
We're going to talk about right people in right seat.
And
the right people are that
culture fit, because the culture, remember, your vision is part of that culture, so they have to understand it and want to be part of it. And that
you know that those people most of the time will make the right decisions for the right reasons because they share the same beliefs as you.
Yes.
They share the same principles. They share the same standards in some instances. So yeah, That's the starting point. But that's hard. Because sometimes we just want a warm body in there. Like, please just take this off my hands and take it over. Or we say, well, this person is really, really good at what they do. They're kind of a jerk, and they're kind of lazy, and I don't really like the way that they dress, and they don't treat our customers very well, but man, they're really good at stocking our shelves. So let's just get them in here.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work if that's not the type of business that you are. Although there's like those restaurants where the servers are like intentionally mean to people.
Oh, what is that?
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. And they're like, they can say rude stuff to you, but it's
you're like, can I have some napkins? And they come over and like throw 100 napkins at you. That's fun.
They can make fun of you all the time.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. But most businesses are like that inadvertently. Like you've got cashiers at gas stations that are treating customers like that, and that ain't part of the gig, right?
Yeah.
So first we're looking for culture fit. So we make sure that we get the right people in the business.
Yeah.
And then once we get the right people in there, we need to make sure that it's really clear what those people need to be doing. And this is where the management piece really comes in. So we actually have been rehashing this in our business recently because we had everybody do these role clarity forms where we make sure, like, it was sort of here's a blank sheet of paper with some sections to write on, and why don't you tell us what you think your job is?
Yeah.
And it was pretty interesting, the feedback that we got, because some people nailed it, some people said things we didn't expect, and then some people we asked them to write down their 5 key priorities, and some of them were like, well, you completely missed the mark.
Yeah.
On this. And that's my failure as a leader and as a manager for not making that clear.
It's such a good thing, though, to because most of the time if you ask somebody, like, on the spot, right, you're not going to get that full whatever. This was a great way for people to really think about it themselves and then write it down, and then for you to see, like, oh, I didn't realize that's what they thought their job was.
So this is how, once we've brought in the right people, this is how we get them in the right seats.
Yeah.
Is for every role, you should be writing down those 3 to 5 key priorities for that person.
Yes.
And a lot of us as business owners fail at this. We don't tell people, here's your focus, here's your priorities, here's what you do to make yourself successful in this position.
Yep.
Instead, we throw people into it and say, good luck.
Yeah.
So it's been nice going through this exercise recently, and then onboarding a new employee on Monday. I could tell her on day one, here are the 5 key roles for this position. Here are the things that you need to make sure that you do.
Yeah.
And it's proactive communication, and it's finishing the job, and it's holding the client's hand through this process.
And then here's your objectives and subjectives, which I did not know what subjectives
that's next,
were.
Ashley. I'm still on the first half of this sheet.
Oh my God. Okay.
You're so impatient.
I didn't even.
I don't think you should have any Celsius today. I think you've had enough.
I feel like
you know what the problem is? You've been really excited recently.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the business is going well, and you're doing fun things, and it snowed yesterday, which puts you in the Christmas spirit.
I know.
And
it's time.
You are a wrecking ball. You're breaking the microphone over there.
Sorry, I can't get it.
All right. So step 1, for every role, for every seat in your business, this could be cashier, this could be CFO, this could be receptionist, this could be bookkeeper, this could be salesperson. Pick a role. Barista, right?
Yep.
What are the up to 5 most important priorities of that job? There's going to be more, right? People have to do more than 5 things, especially in a small business where we're wearing multiple hats, right?
Yeah.
Like right now, my executive assistant is also handling the front door when somebody walks in, right? Because we don't have somebody sitting at that desk right now. So that's not like one of her key priorities, but she's got to do it.
Yeah, but she's ordering snacks and killing it, because these are the best snacks we've had in a while.
Okay, so that's a really good example. And Chrissy, I'm going to apologize.
It was a strength she didn't know she had.
We haven't talked about this. She's doing great with that. Like our snacks in the office we have a world-class snack supply in our office right now. That's not one of her 5 key priorities.
No, it's not. But she's good.
She's good at it, right? Yeah. But that's the point, is we tend to hide out in those things that we're good at instead of saying, oh, my real priorities for Adam are managing his email and managing his calendar and managing his projects and his to-do list. Like, those are the key priorities. The other stuff is nice to have, but like if you're ordering meat sticks at the expense of handling my inbox, we have a problem, right?
If that's your number one.
and again, this is not the fault of the employee. And this is an example that we can laugh at, especially because Chrissy is handling these things pretty well, and the snacks are really great. But there's a lot of instances where employees don't understand, oh, yeah, I thought this was such an important role here. So we got the 5 key roles. Then we got to talk about measurables. And this is one that I think a lot of business owners struggle with. we talk about KPIs, key performance indicators.
Yep.
And again, when it comes to managing, it's really hard to put numbers in front of people. Ashley, we were supposed to convert 45 new clients last quarter. How many did we convert?
Was it 24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, horrible.
Yeah, step on the scale.
Exactly. But you know that, right? And we all know what happened, and we've already righted that ship. But that's the whole point, is if you didn't have that number, if you didn't know, you've got another goal where you have 8 clients that you have to do certain things with, right?
Yes.
And you have to get them into the next program, right? I'm going to put that in front of you and make it really clear to you. And you know, if you don't go 8 for 8, you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
Right? Huge trouble.
Yeah.
What did we bet on something the other day? And I said, if you
said
lost,
I had to ride my bike
I said I was going to take your car for a week.
And I had to ride my bike to work. And then on the way home, I see somebody riding their bike. I sent Adam a picture. I'm like, this could have been me, but I was not ready to take that bet.
So I was 100% dead serious about that.
I know you were. That's why I didn't.
And that's a good example of managing with fear. Sometimes it works, right? Like, and you know what happened? You didn't take the bet.
No.
But what else happened?
Well, then I still.
You hit the goal.
I still killed it.
Yeah.
I wish I would have taken the bet.
Exactly. I don't even remember what my obligation would have been on that. But
no, I don't
I was
either.
willing to. I'm not riding my bike to work.
Yep.
All right. So
that would have been
measurables
funny.
in those numbers. I believe that every position in a business should have at least one number that they're responsible for.
Yeah.
You are responsible for conversion rate,
Yes.
doing sales, right? Doing intake, you're responsible for booking appointments or getting people to actually show up for it. If you're, we talked about this, I think it was in the leadership episode, of like, maybe it's time of delivery of service. So when you order your breakfast at the coffee shop and the customer needs to get to their radio show, like, get it done in 4 minutes, don't take 12, right?
Correct.
So I believe that every position should have at least one number that they're responsible for. Could be contacts with clients. I'm just trying to think of some of the other things that we track, but maybe it's just, you have committed to spending 2 hours per week studying and learning new things, right? And be not, I wouldn't leave it that vague, but we have some like training programs that we provide to our employees. So every position should have at least one number, and that employee should be responsible for reporting that number back to leadership. It shouldn't be leadership's job to go out and find the number.
Right.
How'd we do, right? How many phone calls did we get last week? It should be, hey, we got 37 and the goal was 34.
Yep.
Great, right? So we use, we use a lot of sports analogies in business, but this is the scoreboard, right? You go to a golf tournament and they've got people's scores posted, not just in relation to each other, but also in relation to par. Like, what is the goal? Oh, you're 6 shots under? All right, you're ahead of the game. You're beating the standard. This is what we want. This is the goal here. So having that scoreboard, we've got scoreboards for every department in our office, and we're constantly adjusting and tweaking them to make sure that we're tracking the right stuff. But it's also helped us, and you've seen this in the last few months, where as we bring on an outside marketing team and as we bring on an outside sales team,
see the change.
we have benchmarks.
Yep.
And we know how we can hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So we know when the sales team has 1 of 3 appointments show up, and our standard is 75% show up, something's wrong there, right?
Yep.
And we can go and fix that.
Yep.
We're managing.
Yeah.
They don't work for us. They're not, they work for us, but they're not employees of ours. They don't get a W-2, but they are a vendor of ours that we pay pretty well for what they do, and we're looking at those numbers and holding them accountable.
Yep.
The good news is with the sales and the marketing example, we're working with professionals. We're working with adults who understand exactly what we're looking for on that stuff, and they understand the reason for it. But there's so many other people out there that aren't professionals, that aren't experts, that aren't adults, that, why are you asking me these questions? Why do you want to know this
You
stuff?
get defensive.
And it's like, well, because if we don't hit these numbers, you don't get a paycheck, right? Or if we don't hit these numbers, we don't achieve the goals that we want to achieve, and you don't get to go and buy your house or take your vacation or put your kids in private school or whatever, right? So that's our objective KPIs. This is stepping on the scale. This is black and white, yes or no, did you hit it, right? Now, if you didn't, there's always an explanation that we can go through. There's always a discussion that we can have. There's questions that we can ask, which I strongly encourage. Like, I don't think you punish based on lack of results. I think you then have to dig into intent and effort to see if they got it right.
Well, you've asked me before, when numbers have been down, did you do this? Did you try this? And it's not to say, bet you didn't, so that's why, but more of, if you didn't, let's try it and see if that works.
Yeah, but I think too many bosses don't dig into that, and they say, you didn't hit the numbers, you suck.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? Like, you failed. Well, all right, you're not doing much for your people there. So that's objective KPIs. But here's the new one that we learned. This was at the event in Atlanta.
I did not know this. Yep.
Subjective KPIs.
Yes.
The concept was initially really off-putting to me because it's a key performance indicator. You know whether or not someone is performing, but you're measuring it on a subjective basis. But then it totally makes sense if you really think about it, right? So the person answering the phone, your receptionist, or the person greeting your customers has a subjective KPI of be friendly.
Yeah.
Are you doing that or not? Right? Like that's something that we can't say, oh, you're a 9 out of 10 on friendliness, or you got a 48% on friendliness. But we know, were you friendly to these people or not? And you can have an off day, but generally speaking, that is a key part of your job. Right. Maybe for a lawyer, that isn't such a key part of the job. You got to have, or a doctor, right? You got to have bedside manner, but not at the expense of like emotionless diagnosis and problem solving,
right?
Because that's the key part of that job, right?
Right.
So yeah,
they have to make sense. For
the subjective key performance indicator has been a really interesting concept to me. Like I think that one of my subjective key performance indicators is keeping people focused and motivated, and that's a hard thing to measure. And in fact, I like one way to measure it is, did we accomplish our goals or did we finish our projects? But that's been a new one for me. Now, if you're starting out and you have no key performance indicators in place, start with the objective ones. Start with the black and white because they're easier to track and measure, and you know whether you're hitting it.
And what's the number that people, like, we're not saying like have 10 of these.
Everybody should have at least one, probably no more than 5. Okay. Here's the other thing I learned. I had to suffer a lot of brain damage to get to this point, but in order to establish these KPIs, they're not top down. This is not Moses coming down from the mountain with the tablet saying, here are your KPIs. Yeah. This is a collaborative process of, what do you think is important in your job? And we'll take sales as an example. Well, I think my conversion rate is important, and I think my dollar value sold is important, and I think following up on outstanding proposals is important. Great, I agree. If conversion rate is important, what do you think your conversion rate should be? And you're going to say, 50%. And I'm going to say, what about 80%? And we can negotiate this, right? And we can come to a number that we both agree on. You need to have a number that's realistic and achievable. I need to have a number that stretches you a little bit. So let's come up with that. But it should be a collaborative process. Yep. Then the conversation is much easier when those numbers don't get hit. Yeah. Ashley, we agreed on 30% and you're at 8%. Yeah. What's going on? Yeah. Like, you told me that you could do this and you're not doing it.
Right.
And again, it's not you're failing, loser. It's what do you need to make this happen? So that's the last piece. So we've got the 5 key priorities, we've got objective and subjective KPIs, and then the last piece is, what training or knowledge or experience do you need to make this happen?
And these all come from one another. Like, you have your 5, which then result in your 3, which then result in what do you need?
Yeah, if you've got an objective key performance indicator that isn't related to one of the priorities of the job, you're sending mixed messages to your employee. Yeah. And they're not going to succeed, and you're going to be frustrated and disappointed. But again, it's your fault because you should have helped them clarify that.
Yeah.
Whew.
God, time flies when you're having fun.
I know. Well, I've been giving a lot of thought to this stuff because again, we're building a new team. I think we'll end up hiring 10 employees in the next 12 months. So we're back to making this better, right? Like, this hasn't been as much of a focus for us recently, but especially on the KPIs piece, we've done actually a really good job with that. Our scorecards are better than they've ever been. Our objectives, our KPIs are more clear than they've ever been. But do you know why?
Why?
What was the word of the year?
Oh, results.
Yeah.
Yes.
I said in January, the word of the year is results, and that has given the business some focus. And guess what? We have better tracking of our results than we ever have.
Yes.
And if you're, and all right, more good business advice. If you measure it, you improve it, right? So we had to put these systems in place to measure more numbers in our business and not hide out from them. You didn't hear me go on a rant with Courtney, who started on Monday.
Yeah.
This was kind of fun. So again, part of our vision is empowering our clients, empowering our community of entrepreneurs to master their numbers.
Yeah.
And I think it was last week's show where you said, I'm bad at math.
Yeah.
If it wasn't last week, it was the week before.
Yeah.
The week. These
it's not my thing.
They all blend together. Right. That has stuck with me. So I got to use it. I got to throw you under the bus with Courtney. Yeah. I don't think I used you as the example. I don't think I did it one-on-one with Courtney. I think I'm doing it publicly to our entire audience.
Oh, even better.
Yeah. A lot of our clients have that same mindset. Yeah. I'm bad at math, so I don't know my numbers. And that becomes a really, they think, legitimate excuse for them. But that's also a really fixed mindset.
Yeah.
You may have not done great at 7th grade math. And for some reason, for the rest of your life, you've just sat down and accepted the fact that I'm bad at math.
100%.
Well, isn't that something that you can learn and get better at? If you really committed yourself to it, couldn't you learn that? Yes. Couldn't you figure it out?
Yes.
Instead, you use it as an excuse.
It's easier to say
It's so much easier.
Don't know it.
It's easier to have that. Yeah. It's easier to have that fixed mindset of I can't grow and learn and change, and this is just the way that I am.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. So I got to explain to Courtney that we have a lot of clients who come in with this mindset. Yeah. It's a fixed mindset. And we need to find ways to show them that they're good at math without them realizing that they just realized they're good at math.
Yeah.
Right. And then she had a really good question of like, well, how often does that happen? Like she was asking mindset questions about our clients, which I thought was really interesting because our marketing, our referrals, our networking, we tend to attract people who have a growth mindset.
Yes.
And Pennywise tends to attract successful business owners. And part of the reason that they're successful is because they have that growth mindset. I mean, we talked to 2 guys yesterday, two separate calls, who make $10 million a year.
Yep.
Right? They didn't get there with a fixed mindset.
No, they did not.
They don't buy jets with a fixed mindset. So that was kind of a fun onboarding conversation that I got to have with her. All right, is there anything, we got a couple minutes left. Is there anything else that you wanted to bring in today that you make sure that we cover?
Oh gosh, we only do have a couple minutes. Well, just touch on we thought about how are you managing remote employees?
Oh yeah.
I think that's important because a lot of now employees are remote. So
yeah. So management in particular, right? You want to make them feel like they're part of the team as much as possible.
Right.
And it's not easy. Like there's a lot of people complaining like, oh, big corporate America wants us back in the office because they don't think we're doing our jobs. Well, the reality is you're not doing your jobs. But second of all, like there's value to having people in that space, right? And it's not so they can sit over your shoulder all day. It's so that you can be part of a community and be part of a team. Now, there's some balance there. I really like working from home. I'm not in the office every single day, although I've been in more and more recently. But there is value to working from home, and I think people like that flexibility. Yeah. So and again, this doesn't apply to every business. Not every business has remote employees, although there's plenty of stuff you could outsource.
Right.
Email. I hate email. So you want to make sure that these people are part of the team as much as possible, and it requires more effort. If you are in an office, in a physical building, in a space, in a store, you sort of have these natural interactions where people are sort of bouncing ideas and thoughts and conversations off of each other, right? Like I think of it like molecules like vibrating and bouncing off of each other. You're never going to achieve the same level of that with a remote staff, but so you need to be very intentional about trying to get it to happen as much as possible. So we did. Was it last year? I think we did like a Thanksgiving cook-off in the office.
Yes.
We haven't done a cook-off in a while, but we would do a little cooking contest. And we tried getting the remote people to judge everything but taste. So like concept and presentation. And then they decided they didn't want to be involved in the judging. But then we did, so we decided that we didn't need to subject them to that, but we had like a Thanksgiving meal delivered to our remote employees. And like, remember trying to get Thanksgiving dinner delivered in South Africa? And it was really cool. Like they got to see part of our culture. It was not a super easy thing to get to them, but that made them feel like they were part of the team. So there's the touchy-feely part of it like that. But then there's also the management piece of it of holding them to subjective standards and making sure that they're doing their jobs. It doesn't mean that you go out and get a keyboard tracker so you can track every single keystroke on their keyboard, but it is, you promised me you would do 7. You're at 6. What's it going to take to get you to 7?
Holding the same expectations.
Yes, 100%.
As if they were,
But it does require a lot more effort and a lot more intentionality because if you're out of sight, you're out of mind, so that the boss isn't going to be able to give you that fun project because they aren't thinking about it or they aren't going to remember that you're there. So it does definitely make things more difficult. But it's a muscle that you build as a manager. And that's the one thing we didn't get into today is setting that standard as a boss. Like, you have to set the standard. You show the example of discipline.
Yep.
Whew. Great show today.
Yes.
Talking about management. We'll see you next week. I believe in you.